Hey there, it's Seb Fry the Realtor here, and in today's video, I want to address the question of just when we can expect the big game-changing crush of real estate listings to hit the market. If you've been wondering when we're going to finally see a whole bunch more homes for sale, watch this video. Alright, but before I get into all that, let me ask you to please do me a favor. Would you mash that subscribe button right there to subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget to click the little bell to get a notification every time I put up a new, fun, fascinating, and very worthwhile video, kind of like this one. Alright, well, this video is kind of like a follow-on to my last video where I talked about the signs of an impending shift in a real estate market. And I didn't say there's any signs right now. Actually, I don't see any signs right now of an impending shift in the real estate market. But I did let viewers know what they should be looking for. But the number one thing I said to look for is a rise in inventory, right? A increase in the number of homes for sale relative to demand for those homes. That's the number one indicator that we can keep an eye on to see when we might be having a shift in the real estate market. Now, we've been in a very, very hot real estate market for quite some time, and everyone wants to know, like, hey, when is the slowdown coming? When are we going to see, like, maybe a cooling off, or perhaps even, God forbid, a declining real estate market with lower home prices? And a lot of people are asking that now because, of course, mortgage interest rates have jumped up quite a bit. Average rates right now are around 5.1%. And that's if you're paying points. That's according to Fannie Mae, you got to pay like 3/4 of a point to get that rate on a conforming loan. So interest rates have jumped up about 50%. Gee, in just about 4 to 6 weeks. So that is a big change in the cost of borrowing. And a lot of people are saying, hey, this will have to have an effect on pricing, right? It's going to have an effect on demand because people are not going to have the same purchasing power that they had just 4 to 6 weeks ago because the cost of money is so much higher. And that would be nice if that were the case. However, it appears that there is so much pent-up demand for housing that this increase in mortgage rates does not appear at this time to have had much of an effect. But rising rates are, in fact, one thing that could temper demand. In fact, just a few days ago, I ran the numbers for Santa Clara County, and I saw that there is a 1.68 month supply of single-family residences for sale in the Santa Clara County. Now, that is not a big supply of homes. They say that, we can expect to see the market sort of shifting in the 4 to 6 month range of supply of homes, and we are nowhere near that number. But I did see a report from Zillow not too long ago, the Zillow Home Price Appreciation Survey or something like that. I forget what it's exactly called, but it's something like that. And they survey economists for large brokerages and analytics firms. And they are asking, like, where do you see, home prices going over the next, year or two? And in that survey, they are still forecasting that there's going to be an increase in home prices in 2022 and even 2023. But in that report, they did say that these analysts are expecting that we will return to pre-pandemic levels of inventory by 2024. So not this year, not next year. The year after that, 2024, we will return to pre-pandemic levels. So in Santa Clara County in February of 2020, which is 1 month before the lockdown came about, if you can remember, March of 2020, how much inventory was there in that month? Why? There was a 2.7 month supply of homes in February of 2020. So if we are going to return to a pre-pandemic level of inventory, why, that would be a 2.7 month supply. And then right now, we basically are at a 1.7 month supply. So that would obviously be a very big increase in the relative supply. But when you compare any 1 month to any one other month, it's obviously, like that's only a very, very small window which to observe the market. So what I did is I went back and I looked at the prior 4 years. So I did 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 from February of 2017 to February of 2020. And I looked at the amount of inventory in Santa Clara County in that 4-year period over all the months, right? Not just February's, over the entire 4-year, every month of those like 48 months or 49 months or whatever it was. How much inventory was there? Why? Guess. There was, you don't have to guess, I'm going to tell you. There was exactly 1.99 month supply of inventory. Let's just call it 2 months supply of inventory averaged over 4 years. So if we are returning to a pre-pandemic level of inventory at some point in 2024, and before 2024, we still won't be at that pre-pandemic level of inventory, at least according to the experts who were surveyed by Zillow. We can see that we're still not in a situation where there is anywhere near enough homes to meet the crushing demand that we have for them. So I don't think that there is any conclusive evidence to show that we are going to be seeing an explosion of inventory, at least not because of a lack of demand. Rising interest rates are in fact something that we need to be concerned with, but right now we are still in the low fives. And a few more videos ago, I put out a video saying that I didn't see that there would be any sort of negative effect on the market with interest rates at 5%. And that was when they were in the low fours, and of course, beep, they jumped up really quickly into the low fives. Now, I still think that we're going to be okay throughout most of the fives. And then what happens when we hit 6% interest rate, right? Because the Federal Reserve, they are planning to raise their rates again at their May meeting, right? So that's next month, which is not very long from now. They plan to, raise, or they've signaled that they will probably raise their rates by 0.5 point. Right? So what might that do to mortgage interest rates? Well, it might do nothing, or it could bring mortgage interest rates up to 5.75% or 6.25%. And maybe that's already factored into the current rate. Nobody actually ever knows. And in fact, there's many factors which can affect rates, not just the Federal Reserve rate that they charge. So, if interest rates do continue this, really, really aggressive rise upwards, at some point, it would have an effect on the demand. And if the demand did drop appreciably for homes here in Santa Clara County, the greater Silicon Valley, the greater Bay Area, yes, at that point, you could expect there would be a flattening of prices, or even perhaps if it was, a strong enough tamper on demand, you could see prices fall off. But again, none of the experts are actually predicting that we're going to be seeing anything like a decrease in home prices this year, certainly 2022, and probably not even in 2023 if you listen to the experts. If you want to listen to the experts, and I myself, in this case, I am going to listen to the experts because I don't have any data of my own which would reliably be used to forecast what's going to happen with home prices for the rest of this year or in 2023. So I'm just going to go with that and just say, we're probably going to continue to see rising home prices even in the face of these rising interest rates. So let's just say the demand is going to hold pretty darn strong even in the face of what's happening with mortgage interest rates. So what else could affect the supply-demand balance? The number one thing that's going to affect that is, I hate to say it, ready for this? A recession. Yes, a recession would in fact be one of those things if it were big enough, if it were deep enough, if it were long-lasting enough to actually create more inventory. And how does it create more inventory? Well, what happens is people lose their jobs. Sad to say, when they lose their jobs, guess what they do? They fall behind on their mortgage payments. They maybe sell their house before they fall behind on the mortgage payments. So in a situation like that where you do have a deep enough recession, that is the number one thing that's probably going to create inventory in a hurry. And that begs the question, when are we going to see that next recession anyway? Well, let me ask you this. When was the last recession? Do you remember? Well, I'll give you a hint. It was very recently. It was actually in 2020. In 2020, which was just 2 years ago, we actually did have a recession. Remember that pandemic thing? Yeah, so there actually was a recession. We did have negative GDP growth in 2 months, in March and April. And normally they define a recession as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So that's 6 months, and we only had 2 months of negative GDP growth. So was it a real recession? I'm going to say that 2020 recession, not a real recession. I'm going to say that because it was not something that was caused by normal market fluctuation. It was just caused by this pandemic and the government shutdown. That is what caused the recession. So let's not count 2020. So excluding 2020, when was the last recession? Do you know? How could you forget, right? It's the mortgage crisis of 2008. That was the last recession. The last recession started in 2008, which is about 14 years ago. So 14 years ago, we had our last real recession. And let me ask you this. What is the average length of time between recessions? Any idea? Well, it depends on who you ask and how they calculate it. I mean, are you looking back just to like World War II or the turn of the century or the Civil War or since the time the Republic was founded in 1776, right? So it depends on what window of time you're looking at. But most people are going to tell you that the average length of time between national recessions is between 4 to 6 years. So let's just call it 5 years on average. It's about 5 years between recessions. And if we've been 14 years since our last real recession, what does that tell you? It tells you that why quite likely we are due for a recession. The only question is when will that recession hit? And how deep will it be? So when can we expect that next recession? Well, the good people at Fannie Mae put out a report not too long ago, about a month ago, and they said they forecast that we're going to see another recession in 2023. That's just next year. And it's really easy to make a prediction about a recession next year. It seems like every year a lot of people are saying we're going to have a recession next year. I've heard that for probably 7 or 8 years in a row now, it seems. But the people at Fannie Mae are saying they think there's going to be a recession next year, 2023, but it's going to be a mild recession. It's not going to be anything significant, nothing anybody needs to worry about, probably only resulting in a decrease in GDP of 0.3%, and that is in fact a very mild recession. So what could tip us into a significant recession? Well, there's one thing out there, one very big thing that is on the headline news coast to coast, and that is the rising cost of oil. That's right, the fuel costs are up substantially. I know you know it. Even if you drive an electric car, you know that fuel prices are up significantly over where they were just a few short months ago. And this does have the power to potentially put us into a significant recession. You may recall, if you're old enough, you may recall the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s, which really threw a wrench in the works of the United States economy. For quite some time, we had stagflation, we had the whole malaise of the Jimmy Carter years, right? That all started with the oil Arab embargo, and it just lingered on for a lot of time, and it resulted in spiraling inflation. Inflation was out of control, and what do we see today? We see inflation at 8.5%. Now, how did they break that? The Federal Reserve stepped in there and they did what they're doing right now. They choked off the money supply. They cut back money supply, and they raised interest rates. And that did, in fact, have the desired effect, which is it crushed inflation, but it also created a huge recession and did, in fact, create a calamity in the real estate mortgage market. Now, we were all much better for it afterwards, having taken that medicine. Now, I don't want to be one of those cranks on YouTube who says, oh my God, the sky is falling, buy gold, buy guns and ammo, and dig a hole in the ground and stay there till all the dust clears. I'm not that guy. But what I am saying is that I think it's going to take something like a big, significant recession to materially impact the price of homes here in the greater Silicon Valley, greater Bay Area. All right, well, I hope you have found this video to be fun and interesting. And if you have, you may also like some of these videos over here. These are some of my most popular videos here on my YouTube channel. So go check those out. And would you do me a favor? Remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really love it if you would do that as well. And of course, please stay tuned.